At that moment when he was there, he just hears chainsaws, turns and sees two guys come out of the bushes and rush him and his DJ equipment. So like any sane person would do, he kept his distance between him and them, and they literally went and cut all his equipment right in half.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto. And folks, if you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com, make a donation. That is what we count on when it comes to our legal fees, our security guard fees, in order to tell you the other side of the story. Well, you might recognize the two people next to me. It is Chris Skye and the lovely Miss Jenny. They are mainstays at the Yahoo Nation protests that have been happening for the last 16 Saturdays in a row at Queen's Park. But you know, when we covered the last Yahoo party, Chris told me about an after party that happens down at Cherry Beach. And my goodness, talk about a fun time had by all. Well, my cameraman Mocha and I, at the midnight hour, we went down there to check out basically what is an outdoor nightclub. Let's just run a little footage of what we encountered on Saturday.
This government is amazing at all the double standards with other protesters, with themselves, making exceptions for themselves. They don't have to wear the masks. They can travel. I don't know if you know, like the federal ministers, they traveled all across during the pandemic and restrictions, right? So it just shows you that this is all BS. You know, if it was a real pandemic, if it was a real danger, nobody would be traveling. Everybody would be wearing actual masks, not just some cloth, you know, on their face. So it just shows you that it's not what they tell you. And we have to be aware that we have to expose the hypocrisies and the actual facts that the hospitals are empty, people want to have fun, people want to enjoy their life, the humanity has to prevail, and that's what we're fighting here for.
Yeah, no, we've heard from doctors and nurses that the hospitals are at least half empty, that people are dying on elective surgery lists.
They are, actually.
And now you guys have been going to the Queen's Park protest, you guys have been coming to this party for several Saturdays. In theory, you and me, for that matter, we should all be dead, right?
I know, and that's the whole point. Like, we've been doing this for close to 4 months now, right? Like, if it would be any guinea piggies in terms of if this is really deadly virus, like, we would be affected. But the reality is we're not. We're healthy. We're enjoying our life. We're standing for the rights for other people that try to bash us as well, which is unfortunate. I always say I fight for the rights of my children and yours at the same time, so you're welcome.
They try to get us not to come here by blocking off the parking lot and saying, yeah, there's nothing happening here, but it's a bunch of bull, right?
Well, it's very funny. They blocked out the parking lot. They didn't want you to come to the party, but there's an illegal tent city right there, right?
Everywhere. Look at them. Have you seen them all? There's a guy.
There's one here too.
There's a guy over here. He's got landscaping. He's got everything. This guy's living here for good.
Yeah. Like I said, a good time had by all, but not quite, because later that day, I mean, my goodness, it was like something out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Call it the Toronto Chainsaw Massacre. Here we had a couple of people. It's front page of the Sun today, guys. Two people went to the area where you were having a party, Miss Jenny and Chris, with chainsaws running. I mean, it must have been absolutely terrifying, and they destroyed some of your equipment. What exactly happened?
Well, we throw the party at Cherry Beach, we call it a party. Really, it's considered an extension of our protest at Queen's Park. Now, why do we do that? Because a lot of people are afraid to go to Queen's Park. If they work in the government or if they work in another sensitive industry, just being seen there could cost them their job, or a lot of people just don't want to be seen at a protest because their social circle will find it unacceptable. So we put that party together at Cherry Beach for all the people who want to be there but need a safe environment. Safe from physical harm and safe from any kind of consequences in their job or their social life.
And Chris, have you ever had any problems like fights or anything like that?
Absolutely not. We coordinate directly with the Toronto Police Service, who acknowledges it as an extension of our protest. We hire a professional licensed security who's there all the way up until 5 a.m. We have a dedicated team that cleans up the entire beach and makes sure it's left in a better condition than when we first got there. And we've never had any problems. And I got to stress, we didn't have a problem that night either, Because the party, the security leaves around 5. Some people, stragglers, hang out till around 6:30. But then after that, everyone's gone. And the only people left are the cleanup crew.
And Chris, my cameraman Mocha and I, we saw it with our own eyes. It was a great vibe. Everybody was having fun. You know, people weren't being obnoxious or violent or anything. There is a tent sitting nearby, but the people there were ignoring you. So these two individuals with chainsaws, you went down yesterday, I believe, to the police division that was responsible for charging these two individuals. What do we know about them and what their motivation was for doing this?
What I was led to believe is those guys stumbled upon the beach after the party was over, after all the guests were gone, except for a few people who were cleaning up the beach. Music was still running at a lower level. Other people had started coming back to the beach because it was around 8, 9 in the morning at this point. And apparently they exchanged words with somebody and they left. The guy they exchanged words with also left the beach. Our DJ, Omari, who's been getting interviewed everywhere, he came back to pack up his gear and pack up and help clean up the rest of the stuff. He didn't even know those guys came. At that moment when he was there, he just hears chainsaws, turns and sees 2 guys come out of the bushes and rush him and his DJ equipment. So like any sane person would do, he kept his distance between him and them. And they literally went and cut all his equipment right in half.
That must be a considerable cost, what they damaged.
We're talking probably around $4,000 worth of damage on the gear.
You know, Jenny, have you ever heard of something this outlandish? I mean, we don't even know if their gripe was with anyone at this party in the first place. It could have been just some random guy, and yet they chose to take it out on your DJ's equipment.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that it happened. I'll be honest, because we haven't had any issues at Cherry Beach for how many weeks? No one's bothered us. Yeah, and now that it's out there that we have, we're working with the police. Now this happens. I don't know. I don't believe in coincidences.
And tell me too, I understand, Chris, you said that Mayor John Tory has weighed in on this, and he's somehow making a connection that the party was somehow responsible for this?
He's making a ridiculous subliminal accusation that, well, he made the inference that the same people who are responsible for the protests are responsible for the party, which is true. But then he tried to make it seem like we're all responsible for these guys that came to the beach with chainsaws when we had nothing to do with it. They weren't there for us. They weren't there at our party. We had the party Saturday night. Those guys showed up at 9:30 a.m. the next day on the Sunday. So they're completely unrelated to us. Even some of the other mainstream media were a little more honest for once. Like Global admitted the party was gone. The party was done. None of the party goers were there. Nobody at the party ever got hurt at any of our parties. There's never been an incident at our party, and this was just an unrelated incident that happened to be at the same location, and these guys were basically rampaging. We weren't the only people they saw. There's people on the bike path that they ran by. There's people all over.
They were lunging at cyclists with chainsaws.
Exactly. They just seemed like they had a grievance with the beach in general. And
you know what I find staggering about John Tory making this insinuation? This is a limp-wristed mayor that has turned a blind eye to all kinds of lawlessness, including that permanent tent city that seems to be down at Cherry Beach, including Black Lives Matter protests that vandalized statues, including Afro-Indigenous Rising that squatted for 3 weeks on Nathan Phillips Square and then squatted at Dufferin Grove Park for another 2 weeks. And yet he does nothing there except say, pretty please, but a bunch of people getting together for a freedom party, if we can call it that. Suddenly, you're the bad guys?
Well, let's be honest. The government likes to make as many laws as possible, and then they like to selectively enforce them. Why? Because it gives them more control. So all those people that you just mentioned are pushing government narratives or government agendas or are helpful to the government in some way or another. So of course they're going to be kept under the radar, and of course they're not going to be ostracized. We are trying to unite everybody to let them be aware that the government is working against us instead of for us like they're supposed to be. And so of course the government's going to try to make us look bad.
Well, certainly here at Rebel News, we're going to continue to follow this story. When there's a trial date set and the courts are back, we are going to follow this. There is no way these two individuals should get off with a slap in the wrist, which is another problem in this city, too, when it comes to violent criminals. I mean, like I said, it was like something out of the Toronto chainsaw massacre.
Thankfully, it wasn't a massacre. So let's stress that absolutely nobody got hurt besides a DJ deck, and these guys were apprehended within minutes. And the Toronto Police Service did their job as they always do. They've kept us safe there for 7 weeks. They respect us, they understand our cause, and they know that we're not the ones causing problems there.
The police have been doing a great job. Here's last question, guys. Is the Freedom Party still on, I guess, with new equipment this Saturday?
Well, we can't stop it just because two people did something stupid. If you stopped everything good because somebody tried to ruin it, we wouldn't have anything good.
Okay, then. So you are returning too then, eh, Miss Jenny?
Always.
Always. Well, okay then. There you have it. Well, if Miss Jenny's going to be there, I'm going to be there. I'll tell you that. We are going to continue to fight for our right to party. I can't remember what great philosopher said that, but in the meantime, we're going to go back and we're going to reclaim the beach just to have a good old-fashioned jolly good time. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, you know that we here at Rebel News, we never bend the knee, whether it's fighting for freedom of speech in the public square or going after politicians behaving badly, but we need your help. Sometimes it's for security costs, sometimes it's for lawyer fees. So if you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com. That's journalistdefensefund.com. And if you're able to, make a donation. Thank you so much.